Welcome to Real Life in Archetypes. My name is Marina. So, I wanted to talk about sabotage today. And just to give you a quick example, I was following a protocol for my health and had some kind of supervision from some people at the pharmacy. And the thing is that I noticed that it was not going well after a few months. I'm really tired of it. So, I decided to quit cold turkey just because I made that decision. And the thing is, I've been, really well for over 8 days, which means that I'm now, safe on the safe side. But I went to the pharmacy, okay? So this is a question of taking action. I take an action that is, has strong individuality, all right? I'm alone in this and I have to go all in. And it was really an urge to do something, to take action. That's the hero archetype. When it's about taking action and you're by yourself, now the whole world is going to be against you because the whole world is trying to tell you what to do, what not to do, what to be. So I go to a place that is supposed to be a supportive place because they know me, they've been following me, and I just went there for another purpose. But I encountered one of the people who know me, a woman. It's an important energy because now what is happening is that I'm going to a place of support. And this is where the family archetype comes in. Okay, so now I'm the hero taking action and I'm going to a place of support. And so what is happening there is that a place of support, that's a family archetype. You expect or you need support from the human system where you find some kind of attachment and there's like a continuity. You get some closeness, it becomes personal. That's the family archetype that is activated. So I need support in order to be able to continue to grow. What is the danger in that archetype? To remain stuck. And this is exactly what I encountered. So I was going for another purpose. And then I mentioned, by the way, I have quit, that protocol. And suddenly what transpired was a conversation that was a little bit judgmental. And I was told that it was not right when actually I'm already on the other side of it. So there's no danger at all. And what was very interesting when I came back home was to think about what I did not hear in the conversation, which was, how are you feeling? I did not get that question. The only feedback that I got was from a perspective of people who have, a belief system, okay, that of the way that I should do something, and I have strayed from it. So that's, separating from what you're supposed to do. That's very much of the hero archetype. It's the archetype. It's always happening, even in the smallest things. So what I find is, of course, I come back, I'm a little bit shaken. That's a very critical word for the family archetype because a family is supposed to give you the conditions so that you can actually develop, okay? It gives you a head start. That's what the family is about. They're not supposed to give you like everything perfect. So there's always going to be crisis and stages of development where you're supposed to take care of yourself and to start to develop that maturity to be able to really give yourself what you need and to feel unshakable in, the roots of your being. So you make, you take certain actions because you feel that you needed, that you wanted, okay? And that is exactly the issue that I encountered. And I was a little bit like this. And then I had to bring myself back to the center and just being rational as I like to be, to say, I'm doing perfectly fine. Nothing is happening. It would have happened if, anything were to happen. It would have happened already. But, that is the issue with that archetype. When people do not find it in themselves to allow others to really go on their way and do their thing. This is the crux of the matter of the family archetype, because the human system, whichever it is, so the original one is your original family dynamics. And of course, if you have whatever happened in your family background, that's what is going to be replicated in any other situations where that archetype is going to be activated. Okay, so now I'm there, I'm doing my thing. I do not get any question about how I'm feeling, how I'm doing. Everything is about you did the wrong thing. And I could tell from that kind of behavior that the person was just looking at me, like from an angle. And it feels like, again, this is language of the family archetype. It's your personal self, your emotions. It feels like she was just thinking internally, this is not going to go right. That somehow she was almost rooting for my failure, even though I was smart enough not to say anything after a time had passed, because I didn't want to confront that kind of situation where I could be sabotaged and feel doubts about what I was doing and where I wanted to go. That's what I understood I had to do. I needed to, isolate that decision to myself and then just go and confront the supportive system with an actual result. But I didn't even get, the feedback that I needed. I just got a person who is like full of doubts and just expecting me to encounter some kind of failure, which is technically not even possible right now, but that it's going to backfire. And that kind of behavior, that kind of attitude from others who do not have it in them to respect other individuals that are taking their own journey, that's the hero's journey, and to not be able to go along and support that is part of the family archetype, because that kind of reaction is typical in the family, where they expect you to do what you've been doing, what the family has been doing, the patterns that are in the family dynamics. You should do this, they expect you to do that, and you have to do it in a certain way, whatever is at stake, because it can be any kind of stuff. It can mean taking action, it can mean what it is that you're interested in pursuing, whatever is happening in your family archetype. You replicate that in other situations when it's activated. So you feel something, okay? Now you might feel shaken inside. You need to center yourself and to have a sense of, really, am I taking care of myself? Because you're the one who needs to know better. In the end, that's the growth that needs to happen. So you need to protect that. The problem is that you're vulnerable. You're actually in a vulnerable place, and you need a human system to support you, because we all need that. Otherwise, we cannot survive. The problem is that a lot of people do not know how to provide support. We all do that, by the way. We all have that kind of reaction that we may not even fully realize is kind of sabotaging other people. With our looks, there's a subtlety of the interaction of something that is happening there. It doesn't necessarily have to be, clear condemnation. You can just have like an attitude that doesn't go along with what another person is doing, simply because it's not what you would do. That is an issue of crisis of identity that happens in family dynamics. That kind of dynamics, by the way, it's not just in family. You're going to encounter that type of, confrontation and, going against in other situations that belong to other archetypes. But in the family, it's about you being in a vulnerable position, and you are dependent on, the emotional support that you need to receive. And the problem is that you don't always get that. So you're going to need to provide that for yourself. And the process of centering yourself and being unshakable is part of a development that we need to do from that perspective of the family archetype so that we don't remain stuck. So their reaction, the reaction from that woman was to be, oh, this is wrong. And you're going to pay for it. That was basically the attitude that I felt. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's how it felt to me. And that is sabotage, okay? Because it's not reasonable, even with all of, the variables that I've stated already. It's not reasonable. But the function of the family is to provide support. And we all have a part of us that needs to develop that capacity, by the way, because it's exactly the same energy that can be vulnerable. You first have to, provide the support for yourself to be able to grow. But that exact point of energy where you feel those things, you're going to also project that kind of behavior onto others and maybe not provide what they need. And so the whole thing in the family archetype, one of the biggest lesson in the family archetype for parents regarding the smallest children, because the family is about enabling and supporting and nurturing the small so that they become big. Okay, it's about growth. It's about development on a personal level. And that's what the family is supposed to provide. So what happens with the family archetype is that you can become sabotaged and get stuck. And you can do that yourself, especially as you grow older, because now you're supposed to do it yourself. And you're also, aside from learning to take care of yourself and nurture yourself and provide yourself with the needs that you have, even if you receive influences that are negative, that are not in agreement with what you want to do, you also have to deal with the lessons of confronting your own emotional reactions regarding others and how you may want and not even realize that, to sabotage another person's decisions, whatever they're doing. So we need to be careful with that because it's very subtle. Sometimes it's just about that not saying things. There's a lot about what is not being done, withholding. That's very much very common in those dynamics of the family archetype. So in that case, for example, I never heard the question, so how are you feeling? And to come from a perspective or place of saying, oh, well, that's great that you did that. So how are you doing? And, if something happens, okay, we'll deal with it. No, the attitude was, hey, you're not doing what I want. And I'm kind of rooting for you to learn that lesson so that I can feel, that I'm right. That's how it felt to me. So this is one of those encounters, it's a very simple thing, very simple example. But when you understand archetypes and you understand yourself and what you need, you kind of can figure out what it is that you need to do there and how to bring yourself back to that unshakable center. You have to build an inner foundation and you have to know what it is that you need yourself in order to build that inner foundation. Huge archetype, the family archetype, the personal self, the self that needs to develop at different stages. And being small and needing to grow is not just when you're a child, it's also later when you grow up. And again, it's going to pivot. You're going to have to be able to nurture and support others. And you're going to be confronted with your ability to do that or not, and to respect the individuality of others who might do something different or just, whatever it is that they feel they need. This is a huge aspect, especially for the nurturing, mothering side. That's the feminine energy. It can become really bad because of that, because you want others to listen to you. You want to control the development of that which is small and needs to become big. Same for projects or things like that. Whenever there's a human system, the family archetype is activated. So we have to, pay attention to the dynamics that we become very emotionally sensitive to. We start to have emotional reactions, and whether we are in a place, this can be, replicated at work, for example, that we may feel that, hey, actually, I'm kind of stuck here. I'm kind of stuck, and the environment is not providing the conditions for me to grow. This can manifest, for example, maybe you have ambitions and you suddenly feel it's a feeling, it's emotional. You're going to start to have a lot of difficulties because you're going to feel smaller and more insecure. The outside world is going to become more and more of a threat because of your own insecurities. So when you have a lot of this archetype, I have a lot of it, so I know that's why I need to deal with it. You really need to establish and build your inner anchor to be unshakable. And it's not going to be the case every time, but when you understand and when you know yourself and what you need, which is the case here in my example, it was just time for me to do that. And I felt that it was about taking care of myself. I went there to the pharmacy and I was talking about it, didn't even think it was an issue, but I noticed that kind of rejection of what I was doing. And I thought, well, that's interesting. And I never heard that question. How are you feeling? Well, I'm feeling great. And I was feeling it was time to move forward and not remain stuck. That's what happens with the family archetype. We're going to feel stuck. We're going to make others, feel stuck because we want them to stay always the same. That's a huge problem in the family archetype. We don't like change in the family archetype because we're supposed to undergo some growth in stages, and it requires time to be in the same place so that we can grow and develop. The problem is when we're not actually doing things that enable that growth and we remain stuck, or, pressure others to remain stuck. Yeah. Does that sound familiar? That, maybe you want to do something and everybody else is like, oh, that person is crazy. And they exercise an influence on you because you have an emotional connection with those people, whether it's your actual family or any other kind of human system or people that you have become personally involved with. And now they're going to have that influence on you. So the emotional center being unshakable is a huge aspect of this archetype. So if it affects you, think about it. Thank you for watching.